Before his death, Marquis Wuan dismissed all attendants, keeping only his most trusted confidant by his side to hear his will. Standing beneath the window, I heard the frail voice inside say, "After I die, bury me beside my elder brother and sister-in-law's tomb. My brother's grave is merely a cenotaph. Burying me there will finally fulfill my years of longing for Yu Niang." I was thunderstruck. Yu Niang was Ji Yuqian's elder sister-in-law, since her death from illness 5 years ago. Ji Yuqian had also fallen gravely ill and never recovered, so this was the reason behind it all. Inside the house, Ji Yuqian's voice grew increasingly faint. "Yuanyang, if there's a next life, promise to let me marry you first." "Alright." A sharp pain pierced my heart. All those years of marital affection had been nothing but lies. Overwhelmed by rage and grief, I coughed up blood and died. When I opened my eyes, I had been reborn. This time, I would let them have their way. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. The lightning and thunder raged outside, but in my ears, no roar could drown out Ji Yuqian's tender confession before his death. Decades of mutual devotion turned out to be a lie. All along, the one he truly cherished and longed for was his sister-in-law, who had lived in this Marquis's household as a widow for decades. The world praised our marital bliss and perfect harmony. What a colossal joke it all was. I felt dizzy, my legs gave way, and I could no longer support myself. A mouthful of blood sprayed onto the corridor's edge, the crimson stain rapidly spreading in the rain. "Help! The Dowager is vomiting blood. Someone come quickly. Disaster. The Marquis has passed away. Tragedy." The Dowager succumbed to grief and followed the Marquis in death. The maidservant's shrieks pierced the night sky. Overnight, the Marquis of Wuan's residence was plunged into silence and sorrow. "Madam, wake up quickly." The maid Yuna anxiously shook me awake. I slowly opened my eyes to find myself lying in bed, momentarily dazed. Seeing Yuna's youthful and delicate face, I suddenly realized I had been reborn. Noticing my blank stare, Yuna broke into a sweat from anxiety. "Madam, the Marquis has returned from Jiangnan, and has brought the First Madam back with him." "First Madam?" A gentle and delicate face instantly appeared in my mind. That's right, when Ji Yuqian returned from his official duties in Jiangnan, he brought back eldest sister-in-law Lin Ruyue. The sky over the Wuan Marquis's household began to change from that moment onward. "Help me with my makeup," I said as I sat up, my expression calm, though I had already steeled myself inside. "Yes, I'll make sure Madam looks even more beautiful than the First Madam," Yuna declared with full confidence. I smiled faintly, though in my heart I understood that no matter how beautiful I was, it meant nothing. In Ji Yuqian's eyes, only Lin Ruyue was that one-of-a-kind existence. Other women were merely common and unremarkable, not worth mentioning. Just as I reached the entrance of the hall, I heard the old madam's hearty laughter from inside. Good, it's wonderful that you're back. After Chifeng passed away, we've always wanted to bring you home, and with you recuperating in Jiangnan. Now that you're here, I can finally rest easy," a delicate voice chimed in. "Thank you for your concern. Mother, Yua is much better now and can return to serve you." My husband, Marquis Wuan Ji Yuqian, spoke in a gentle yet deep voice. "Mother, let Yunyang sit and talk, she's just returned. Standing for so long will be too much for her health." The tenderness and concern in that voice were something I had never heard in the decades since we married. I lowered my gaze slightly, a self-deprecating smile curling at the corners of my lips, but none of it mattered anymore. Reborn into this life, I was determined to live well for myself. This time, I would resolutely let them have their way. I stepped inside, and the gazes of everyone in the room turned toward me. Seeing this, Ji Yuqian quickly withdrew his hand from supporting Yunyang and looked at me with an indifferent expression. Lin Ruyue then rose delicately to her feet and called out softly, "Sister-in-law." Her fragile, delicate appearance held Ji Yuqian's rapt attention. Truly, to be charming, wear mourning white. Lin Ruyue's pristine white silk dress, so fresh and ethereal in its simplicity, was enough to unsettle Ji Yuqian's heart. I smiled and said, "Sister-in-law has returned. Yet my husband didn't give us any notice. We could have prepared in advance." The term sister-in-law caused Ji Yuqian's expression to flicker slightly. Though he quickly masked it, he looked at me and said calmly, "You've worked hard managing the household, since Yunyang came back with me, and we're all family. There's no need for formalities. However, the courtyard where Yunyang will stay should be tidied up sooner." I covered my mouth with a light chuckle, my tone gentle yet laced with sharpness. "I know you and my brother and sister-in-law are close, but given the circumstances, you should be mindful of how you address her. You must call her sister-in-law." If people outside heard you calling her by her maiden name, you might not care, but how would that make sister-in-law face others? Mother's expression instantly turned stern. She let go of Yuan Yang's hand and looked at Ji Yuqi with Macronen, her tone carrying a hint of authority. Wna is absolutely right. Cheer with Macronen, you must be more careful. After all, Yuan Yang is your elder sister-in-law. Ji Yuqi with Macronen froze for a moment, a flicker of displeasure flashing in his eyes. But he still responded respectfully to Mother. Mother, I understand, but Yuan Yang and I grew up together, it's just a habit. Seeing Mother's expression soften, I tactfully changed the subject. Brother and sister-in-law's courtyard is cleaned daily. Would sister-in-law like to rest for a while first? The Breeze courtyard was originally the residence of Ji Yuqian's elder brother Ji Yuqifeng and his wife Lin Ruyue. After Ji Yuqifeng passed away due to illness, Lin Ruyue returned to her maternal home in Jiangnan to recuperate. This absence lasted 2 years. During this period, whenever there were official duties in Jiangnan at court, Ji Yuqian would eagerly volunteer. He made 3 or 4 round trips to Jiangnan in those 2 years, each time staying for several months, spending more time in Jiangnan than at the Marquis's residence. The Breeze courtyard remained exactly as it had been. The moment Lin Ruyue stepped into the courtyard, her eyes reddened, and she dabbed at her tears with a handkerchief. Her delicate and pitiable demeanor was on full display. Her maid, seeing this, muttered discontentedly under her breath, knowing full well that our mistress would be saddened by the sight, yet deliberately keeping everything as it was. Isn't this intentionally making our mistress grieve? Though the voice was not loud, everyone heard it clearly. Lin Ruyue quickly scolded, "Don't be so rude. The second mistress has already worked hard enough managing the household. This courtyard was originally how I lived before. It's understandable that the second mistress didn't think of these things." Ji Yuqian's face darkened as he glared coldly at me. "You know Yunyang has always been frail, yet you didn't even have someone light the charcoal in this room first to warm it up." Lin Ruyue looked at me and quickly consoled, "Your sister-in-law didn't mean it, it's just my own weak constitution." Ji Yuqian turned his head and directly instructed the servants, "Go to the storeroom and bring out the fox fur and white fox fur I hunted last autumn to make a collar and cloak for the First Lady. The floor should also be covered, the underfloor heating must be warm, and silver thread charcoal should be used in the room. It burns without ash, so it won't make the air smoky." The care in his words was so meticulous that even I, as the mistress of the household, felt ashamed of my own shortcomings, and I, in my haste to come out and greet him, hadn't even had time to put on a thick cloak, and now I was chilled to the bone. Yet since entering the residence, he hadn't asked me a single word of concern. His heart and eyes filled only with Lin Ruyue's safety and comfort. I took a step back, my expression calm, and said lightly, "Hurry and bring the jadeware bestowed upon the Marquis by the Emperor from the treasury, that carved screen, the ancient painting, and the rare books, to the First Madam's courtyard. Since the First Madam is frail, she can amuse herself with them indoors to pass the time. Marquis, are you satisfied with this arrangement? If not, I can open my dowry treasury. Whatever you and sister-in-law fancy, you may take and bring here." Lin Ruyue hastily interjected, "No need, no need. It's just that Qian was too worried, afraid that if I fell ill, Mother would blame him. Qian, you've been back for so long, you should return to your courtyard to change clothes and rest a while. You haven't seen your younger sister-in-law for over half a year. Go back quickly." Ji Yuqian seemed to finally realize his impropriety. After a moment of hesitation, he said, "Then we'll return to the courtyard first. Yunyang, you should rest well." Covering my mouth, I teased, "Marquis, really? Though you and sister-in-law grew up together as childhood sweethearts, she is still your sister-in-law after all. Mother has already advised maintaining propriety. How could you still call her by her maiden name? If others were to find out, how would sister-in-law face them?" My words instantly drained the color from Lin Ruyue's face. Clutching her chest weakly, she said, "I feel a bit dizzy and won't see you and second brother off." With that, she slowly retreated into the house. Supported by her maid, Ji Yuqian and I returned to the Wutong courtyard. Clearing his throat lightly, he took out an embroidered box from his sleeve. "Wana, these are handkerchiefs embroidered by artisans from Jiangnan. Knowing your fondness for needlework, I bought a few for you." I looked at the brocade box and nearly laughed out loud. In my previous life, he had brought back countless treasures from Jiangnan for Lin Ruyue, yet only these few handkerchiefs for me. Back then, I had treasured them dearly, carefully storing them away. Now that I think about it, his favoritism was so blatant that even the maids by my side were indignant, their faces flushed with anger, yet I smiled and accepted the handkerchiefs. "Thank you, Marquis. Seeing my calm expression, he seemed eager to explain. His face flustered. Bringing Yuanyuang back this time was Mother's idea, not mine. She has always been frail since childhood, and she fell ill again on the journey, so when I returned, I couldn't help but rush a little, fearing you might slight her and give people something to gossip about. I know how hard you work managing the Marquis's household as the Lady of Wuan, and I truly appreciate all your efforts. He stood up and tightly grasped my hand, as if to comfort me. The Lantern Festival is in 2 days. Would you like me to accompany you to see the lanterns? Such a condescending tone was truly irritating. Suppressing my displeasure, I nodded lightly. Very well. It has been a long time since I last enjoyed the lanterns. He turned to instruct the maid. I'll be sleeping in the study tonight. There are still some matters to attend to, so I won't disturb my lady's rest. After Jiyu Qian left, Yuna was filled with indignation, her tears nearly falling from anger. Madam, isn't the Marquis slapping you in the face? He hasn't returned for half a year, and now he comes back not only with the first madam but also treats you like this. I shook my head. Don't take it to heart. Having experienced betrayal in my past life, my heart had long been deadened. The next day, the Marquis went to court, and I took my maid to pay respects to my mother. Passing by the rear garden, I heard someone crying. I walked around the flowers and shrubs and saw that the person sitting there was none other than Lin Ruyue and her maid, Yua. The maid's voice was full of concern as she comforted. Madam, please don't cry. The Marquis didn't mean to avoid visiting you. Didn't you see how the second madam was giving you a hard time, and the Marquis spoke up for you? How could she ever think of surpassing you? The rightful madam, Lin Ruyue sobbed delicately. Don't say any more. I know she is the real Marchioness. What am I, after all, just a wretched woman who lost her husband? The maid Yua lowered her voice, but her tone was indignant. But originally, it was the second young master whom the young lady fancied. It was the master who betrothed you to the eldest young master, saying he would inherit the marquisate. Who could have known the eldest young master would pass away just a few years after marriage, leaving our young lady, so beautiful and young, to suffer as a widow? Lin Ruyue sobbed softly. It's just my wretched fate. Let's not speak of it anymore, Yua continued. But the Marquis is so fond of you, miss. He said he would take care of you for a lifetime. Didn't he promise to find a way? Look at last night. Didn't the Marquis sleep in the study? You two are so well matched. He promised not to touch that Shenwana, and indeed he hasn't shared a bed with her. Hearing these words, I stepped forward, a mocking smile curling at the corners of my lips. Well matched. Then do you know that this well-matched pairing of yours has never been something that could be spoken of openly? A younger brother-in-law and his widowed sister-in-law. Utterly disregarding the gossip of the common folk, meeting privately time and again. Where does that leave me, the rightful wife? Do you even care for the moral principles and social norms that govern our household? At these words, Lin Ruyue trembled, her face paling with alarm as she stammered, Sister-in-law, you mustn't misunderstand. Misunderstanding. I took a step forward, my gaze sharp as a blade, my ears and eyes are keen. I am no Jiyu Qian, and you need not put on this pitiful act here. As a woman, you should know propriety, righteousness, integrity, and shame. Moreover, as the first lady of the Marquis's household, such selfish behavior brings disgrace upon the entire estate. Lin Ruyue bit her lower lip, tears welling up in her eyes. Sister-in-law, why must you be so aggressive? Disgusted, I had no desire to prolong the argument and turned to leave. When I went to pay my respects to my mother-in-law, the dowager took my hand and spoke slowly. Wn Niang, I know you've suffered much injustice lately. Listen to me, our Marquis's household has been distinguished for generations, and every move we make is watched by others. As the lady of the house, you must consider the bigger picture in all matters and prioritize the family's reputation. I assure you, your position in the household will remain unshaken. As for Qian, I will speak to him as well. Though her voice was gentle, it carried an undeniable authority. Hearing this, I realized that the scene in the garden earlier had been reported to the old madam by the servants. I lowered my eyes and replied, Mother, rest assured, I understand everything. In the evening, I instructed the servants to bring pigeon soup into the breeze courtyard, where Lin Ruyue was sitting under a tree playing the zither. Seeing me enter, she quickly stood up. Sister-in-law is here. She seemed completely unaffected by the morning's incident. I also smiled and replied, Today, I had someone prepare pigeon soup for you, sister-in-law, to nourish your health. The maid took the soup and placed it on the table, where a bowl of bird's nest was also set. Lin Ruyue noticed my momentary pause and then smiled gently, saying, This is the red bird's nest that Qian had delivered this morning. Back in Jiangnan, He used to have it sent to me every day for me to drink. I kept telling him not to bother, as I don't particularly care for it anymore. Ewa chimed in from the side. Madam coughs twice every morning when she wakes up, and when the Marquis hears it, he insists we make sure she drinks it daily. Madam should appreciate the Marquis's heartfelt concern. Her words were laced with provocation and pride. Red bird's nest. Ah, such a luxurious delicacy. Consuming it daily would cost hundreds of taels of silver a month. Jiu Qian certainly spares no expense. I lowered my head and smiled faintly. After all, sister-in-law is incomparable to others. Naturally, my husband treats you differently. Something as precious as red bird's nest is excellent for nourishing the body. Half a year ago, while picking lotus seed pods to make a bowl of lotus seed soup for my mother, I accidentally fell into the lake. After catching a chill, I developed a persistent cough. The physician advised that a daily portion of bird's nest would be best for recuperation. However, Jiu Qian responded, a daily portion of bird's nest for recuperation. The Marquis's household hasn't been as prosperous in recent years. Where would we find such spare funds? There were no spare funds for bird's nest for his own wife, yet his sister-in-law was nourished daily with premium blood nest. My heart ached with bitterness. As I turned away, I caught sight of Jiu Qian standing frozen at the courtyard gate. He must have come straight here after court. He heard every word we said. He looked at me, about to say something, but I didn't want to hear it. Has the Marquis also come to see sister-in-law? Perfect timing. I was just leaving. You can keep her company. I have other matters to attend to. He suddenly grabbed my hand. Wen, it's not what you think. Yuanyang has always been frail since childhood. Her cough never fully healed. So I cut him off, my tone icy. The Marquis need not explain his actions to this humble wife. After all, it's only right to treat sister-in-law well. With that, I wrenched my hand free and turned to leave. Jiu Qian hurriedly chased after her when suddenly, a maid's scream came from behind. Madam. What's wrong with you? Someone, call the physician. Jiu Qian stopped in his tracks, turning back in panic to support Lin Ruyue. Yuanyang, what's wrong with you? Someone, take my card and summon the imperial physician. Lin Ruyue fell ill, and the Marquis even took leave from court, staying by her side day and night in Qingfeng courtyard. After the news spread, his mother remained silent for a long time before summoning Jiu Qian and reprimanding him severely. The next day, Jiu Qian attended court, and Lin Ruyue's illness miraculously recovered. When I learned of this in the Wutong courtyard, I merely smiled. In these noble households, such scandals are the most taboo. The two of them wished to be together, yet they never considered that a younger brother-in-law with a lawful wife wanting to marry his widowed sister-in-law was a disgrace that could bring ruin to the entire family. How could the matriarch ever allow it? After much deliberation, I finally dipped my brush in ink and wrote a letter to my parents, who were stationed far away at the border. I detailed how the Marquis's heart belonged to another and that I had no desire to waste my years in the Marquis's household any longer, nor did I wish to remain entangled with him, lest it tarnish the reputation and dignity of the general's household. I would find a way to leave, and once settled, I would inform my parents of my whereabouts. After entrusting the letter to Yuna, I began packing my belongings, carefully stowing away the silver notes and hiding them close to my person for future emergencies. The Lantern Festival arrived swiftly, and Jiu Qian had promised to accompany me to admire the lanterns. Just as we were about to leave, I noticed Lin Ruyue sitting in the carriage as well. That day, she was unusually dressed in a sky-blue gown, draped with a white fox fur cloak, one from my dowry storage. Seeing me frozen in place, Jiu Qian explained. Yuanyang doesn't like wearing other colors. I noticed this white fox fur cloak in your storage, and since you don't wear it often, I took it out for Yuanyang. He had likely long forgotten that this white fox fur cloak was made from a fox he personally hunted during our engagement. I treasured it dearly and had it specially crafted into a cloak, rarely wearing it because it was so precious. And now, it was draped over Lin Ruyue just like that. Lin Ruyue, delicate as an orchid in a secluded valley, covered her mouth with a handkerchief and coughed lightly, pretending to remove the cloak. I didn't realize this belonged to my sister-in-law. I'll take it off right away, she said. I held her hand, a faint smile on my face. Sister-in-law, no need to be polite. This is made from the white fox Jiu Qian hunted. It's only right for you to wear it. Jiu Qian gave me a surprised glance, as if noticing something unusual about me today. For a moment, he seemed stunned, wanting to explain but not knowing where to start. Lin Ruyue casually tossed the handkerchief in her hand aside and opened a small box in the carriage. Pulling out another one, I took a closer look. The box was packed with over a dozen handkerchiefs. identical to the Jiangnan embroidered one Jiu Qian had given me. Something I once treasured like a precious gem now seemed nothing more than a trivial item others carelessly discarded. I closed my eyes. It's getting dark, the lantern festival is starting, let's go. The crowd admiring the lanterns was dense, shoulder to shoulder. Jiu Qian followed behind us, while Lin Ruyue and I enjoyed the lanterns in front, finding it quite delightful. Suddenly, Jiu Qian handed me a lantern, a charmingly naive little rabbit lantern. "Wn Niang, this is for you. You've always liked things like this." I smiled faintly and said, "Thank you, my husband." Lin Ruyue also brightened up, "Seeing how well you and your brother-in-law get along, as your sister-in-law, I'm truly happy for you." In the past, someone would also buy me the lanterns I liked. As she spoke, her expression was filled with melancholy. Jiu Qian quickly said, "This stall doesn't have the orchid lantern you like. I saw some ahead, let's go there to buy one for you." With that, he walked side by side with Lin Ruyue. Suddenly, chaos erupted ahead as someone shouted, "Fire, run!" The crowd surged backward, and before we could avoid it, Lin Ruyue stumbled and fell heavily to the ground. Jiu Qian hurriedly caught her, calling out, "Yuniang," clutching her abdomen. Lin Ruyue frowned and said, "Qian, my stomach hurts." Jiu Qian picked her up and swiftly ran toward the back of the alley, shouting to the servants, "Quickly block those causing trouble behind us. Don't let them block the way, we must return to the estate at once." I was pushed against the wall by the crowd, nearly falling, while Yuna desperately shielded me. I cried out loudly, "Husband, save me," yet he didn't even turn his head, vanishing in an instant with Lin Ruyue in his arms. The crowd jostled and shoved, cries and shouts rising one after another. Some took advantage of the chaos to loot, even snatching jewelry from the hair and bodies of noble women and young ladies. The flames spread, illuminating half the street. Yuna and I struggled with all our might to escape to the alley's entrance where the carriages were parked, only to find the Marquis's carriage and everyone else already gone. He had forgotten that he still had a wife who was being jostled in the streets, her life also in danger. In his heart and eyes, there was only Lin Ruyue. I suddenly stopped in my tracks, facing the snow-laden air of the capital, then turned and walked in another direction. Yuna hurried after me. "Where are you going, madam?" I wiped away my tears. "From now on, I am no longer the Lady of Wuan Marquis. Do you still wish to follow me?" Yuna paused for a moment, then nodded firmly. "Wherever you go, miss, Yuna will follow," I whispered to Yuna, instructing her to find an opportunity to spread the news that the Marquis of Wuan had abandoned his lawful wife to save his brother's widow. Yuna's eyes lit up. Common folks loved nothing more than gossiping about the scandals of noble households over tea. Inside the Marquis of Wuan's residence, the old dowager's face was dark with anger as she glared at Jiu Qian. "Wn Niang is your lawful wife, yet you abandoned her in danger and carried Yuniang back instead. Now the entire capital knows of the Marquis of Wuan's deep affection and righteousness toward his widowed sister-in-law. Truly, you have outdone yourself. Wn Niang is but a frail woman. You left her alone among the rioters without even a single guard. A whole night has passed, and she still hasn't been found. Jiu Qian, I ask you, what exactly were you thinking? Have you considered how you'll explain this to the Shun family if something happens to Wn Niang? With so many maids and servants in the household, was there no one else who could carry her back? Did it have to be you personally? Such affection and righteousness indeed, and of all times. She happened to have her arms wrapped around your neck when you carried her back, right in front of the patrolling guards. By this morning, even the tofu peddlers on the streets were gossiping about the affair between the Marquis of Wuan and his widowed sister-in-law. Jiu Qian hurriedly explained. Yuniang fell, and in my panic, I carried her back to the mansion first. She was in such pain that her face turned deathly pale. Mother, you know how frail Yuniang's health has always been. The old lady scolded sharply. Ever since Qi Feng passed away, her health has been poor. She's been nourished daily with blood swiftlet nests and all sorts of tonics, more delicate than an old woman like me. A single fall could be life-threatening. Now it's your lawful wife, the Marchioness of Wuan, whose fate is unknown and whereabouts are missing. Have you shown any concern? Have you gone to search for her? Jiu Qian defended himself. I've already ordered the servants to search for Wn Niang. We will surely find her. Just then, a servant stumbled in frantically. Marquis, terrible news. The maid sent to search for the Marchioness just returned to report. In the alley where she got separated yesterday, they found the Marchioness's handkerchief. By the riverbank, there was also one of her embroidered shoes, stained with blood. I fear the Marchioness is in grave danger. Having said that, He presented the found items with both hands. Upon hearing this, the mother collapsed into her chair, wailing in sorrow. My Wana. Ji Yuqian stared in disbelief at the blood-stained shoes and handkerchief placed on the ground. His hands trembled as he tried to pick them up, but his body felt weak, utterly devoid of strength. How could she have fallen into the river? How could a person just be gone like that? Ji Yuqian retreated several steps, muttering to himself, how is this possible? She was with her maid. I was planning to go back to fetch her. How could she just disappear? The old nanny from my courtyard rushed forward, clutching the shoes on the ground, and wailed, "Miss, oh my miss." Then, she glared hatefully at Ji Yuqian. The Marquis said he would go back to fetch my lady, yet he spent the entire night in the first madam's courtyard. Now my lady is missing. Fine. What a fine Marquis of Wuhan you are. If anything happens to my lady, I will make sure the scandals of your Wuhan Marquis household are known throughout the capital. Uncle and sister-in-law behaving improperly, lingering in ambiguous situations, spending day after day in the sister-in-law's courtyard, paying respects and serving her medicine from dawn till dusk, yet neglecting his own wife. If the Marquis wishes to marry another, why not say so openly? Must he resort to harming my lady to please those scheming women? My young mistress was perfectly fine when she left with you. How could she have fallen so coincidentally? Why is it that when the Marquis took 2 people out, only 1 returned? If the Marquis doesn't bring my young mistress back, I swear I'll risk my life to take him to court. As the commotion reached its peak, a servant from Qingfeng courtyard came to report. My lord, something seems amiss with Our Lady. Please come quickly to see. The old nurse spat in disdain. Pa, she's always using her poor health as an excuse to cling to the Marquis. Shameless. Let me see what else this so-called first lady of the Marquis's household can do. Now that she's already caused my young mistress's death, the old lady scolded. The Marchioness hasn't been found yet, and if your mistress is unwell, call a physician. Why seek the Marquis? Can he diagnose illnesses? The little maid replied tearfully, Madam, the first lady seems to be bleeding. The midwife says, it looks like a miscarriage. At these words, everyone was stunned. In the breeze courtyard, Lin Rua clutched her stomach, writhing in pain and sobbing. Where is the Marquis? Why hasn't he come? My stomach hurts so much. The old madam stood in the courtyard with a frosty expression. The family physician, sweating profusely, reported, Madam, the first wife is already pregnant, 2 months along. Ji Yuqian knelt in the courtyard, kowtowing repeatedly. Mother, it is all my fault. It has nothing to do with Yuniang. I couldn't control myself and forced her. From inside the house, continuous moans could be heard. Qian, save me. My nanny glared fiercely at the Marquis. No wonder my young lady lost her life so suddenly. So the Marquis and his own sister-in-law committed such deeds, killing my lady to marry someone else. My poor, unfortunate lady. I will report this to our general and demand justice for my lady. The old lady restrained the nanny. I will give Wen Niang an explanation, and the Shun family an explanation. She then turned to instruct the physician, prepare a dose of abortifacient, brew it strong, and have the lady drink it. Seal the courtyard gates. Not a word of this is to spread. If I hear even a whisper of it, none of you will live to see another day. Ji Yuqian knelt on the ground, pleading, Mother. That is my own flesh and blood, your own grandchild. Slap. A resounding strike landed on him. You disgrace. Even if the Wuhan Marquisate were to have no heirs, this child must not be kept. Guards, drag the Marquis to the ancestral hall to kneel. He is not to rise without my permission. Give the medicine to the first madam and make sure she drinks every last drop. Lin Rua was forcibly fed the abortion potion, her cries and screams echoing through Qingfeng courtyard all night. By dawn, basins of bloody water were carried out from Qingfeng courtyard. Lin Rua had lost the child. The old madam stood by her bed, indifferent to the overwhelming stench of blood in the room, staring coldly at her pale face. Pitifully, Lin Rua shed tears. Mother, the old lady said sternly, you now have 2 paths to choose from. First, you may enter the family temple to abstain from meat and chant Buddhist scriptures. From now on, you will still be Ji Yuqifeng's wife. The first lady of Marquis Wuhan, Ji Yuqian, came out of the ancestral hall and knelt before the old lady. Mother, Yuaning cannot go to the family temple. How could her body endure it? Mother, why can't you grant me and Yuaning our wish? You know the 3 of us grew up together, and I always intended to marry her. Now that Wan Yang is also gone, why can't you let me marry her? The old lady looked at him with disappointment. She is your sister-in-law. Our Marquis of Wuhan's household cannot bear such a scandal. There is a second option. You return to the Lin family and cease to be the principal wife of the Marquis of Wuan's household. After a year or so, change your name and enter the household as a concubine. However, from then on, you cannot appear in public and must remain secluded in the inner courtyard forever. Before entering the Marquis's household as a concubine, you must drink a sterility potion. You cannot bear children of the Marquis's lineage. I cannot gamble with the reputation and future of the Marquis's household. Lin Ruya's face turned ashen. The family temple and a concubine who cannot see the light of day. This was to be her fate from now on. A month later, Lin Ruya returned to the Lin family. After that, no one ever knew her whereabouts again. The Lin family only said she had married into a very distant place. Half a year later, the Marquis of Wuan took in a concubine. At night, a small pink sedan chair was carried into the Marquis's residence. There was no wedding feast, no celebration, and no one knew who the concubine really was. It was only known that she lived deep in the inner courtyard, never even stepping outside the door. As for me, after leaving the capital with Yuna, we went to a small town in the southwest. In my childhood, I had lived here with my parents for a time. The place was like spring all year round, filled with blooming flowers. And the people were simple and honest. Here, women could appear in public without being criticized. After settling down, I used the silver notes and jewelry I had brought with me to rent a small courtyard. Yuna's excellent culinary skills came in handy here. We opened a small wonton stall, selling breakfast only in the early morning and closing by noon. Gradually, our stall began to turn a profit, and we addressed each other as sisters, truly settling into life in the small town. I sent a letter to my parents at the border, explaining the situation. The Lady of Wuan Marquis in the capital was dead, and what lived on in the southwestern town was a newly widowed woman named Shenwana. My parents soon wrote back, saying they felt deeply guilty upon receiving my letter for not having found me a good husband, and that I had suffered so much. They tacitly accepted my actions, though my mother worried that I might never be able to marry in the future, but the father said, as long as Wana can be happy, whether she marries or not doesn't matter. However, the Marquis of Wuan's household has gone too far in bullying others. I will surely seek justice for Wana. The letter also mentioned that they had written to the nanny, instructing her to bring all the dowry and belongings left at the Marquis's residence, ensuring that the Marquis's household would not take advantage of them. 2 months later, the nanny arrived at the address my parents had provided. Patting my back, she sobbed, "You scared me to death, young miss. Even if you were hiding, you should have told me. I almost fought them, and I was ready to go to the border to find your father and mother so they could avenge you." My eyes grew warm as I gently patted the nanny's hand and said softly, "Dear nanny, don't worry, everything happened so suddenly that I truly didn't have time to inform you. But look at me now, living freely and contentedly." The old nanny raised her hand, gently wiping away the tears from the corner of my eye, exclaiming in both surprise and delight, "My lady, you wouldn't know this, but Marquis Wuan has been facing repeated setbacks in court recently, with nothing going his way. It must be the master working behind the scenes, joining forces with court officials to impeach him, causing him to lose the emperor's favor and suffer great humiliation. I no longer have any feelings for Jiyu Qian. I just didn't want to worry my parents. Fortunately, the light boat has passed countless mountains, and in this life, the wish has finally come true. This place is 1,000 miles from the capital, and no one knows who I am. I live quite contentedly, every day after selling wontons. I plant flowers and enjoy the scenery in the courtyard, or go boating on the lake near the small town for amusement. The following year, a merchant caravan from the capital stopped at my shop for a meal, and during their conversation, they reminisced about old happenings in the capital. Did the wife of Marquis Wuan just pass away like that? Exactly. I heard they never even found the body. After that, many people tried to arrange marriages for Marquis Wuan, but he never took a wife. Only took a concubine. I have a cousin who works as a long-term laborer in the Marquis's household, and he says that concubine has gone completely mad. Who knows what filthy secrets are hidden within that noble house to drive a perfectly fine person to such a state. That lady who, Marquis Wuan still insists on sending people to search for her outside, as if is truly devoted. I frowned upon hearing this. Since I was already dead, Jiyu Qian and Lin Ruyue could finally be together. Why on earth was he searching for me so desperately? Yet, my heart was uneasy, filled with a sense of foreboding. That day, as Yuna and I opened the shop, someone stood at the door. I froze in an instant. It was Jiyu Qian. He saw me, his eyes filled with surprise, and he stepped forward to block the door I was trying to close. "WN Niang, you're alive, I've finally found you." It turned out someone passing through the town had seen me and, upon returning to the capital, noticed the posters with my likeness that Marquis Wuan had put up in search of me. Lured by the reward, they informed the Marquis's household that they had seen someone resembling the Marchioness in a remote border town. Jiu Qian brought his men to search and indeed found me. I looked at him and said, "My lord, why bother searching? You're already with the one you love, aren't you? Yu Niang is the one you've always longed to marry. Since I'm not the one you desire, why cling to me?" Jiu Qian shook his head with a somber expression. "Wn Niang, I've wronged you, but I never intended to part with you, nor did I ever think of letting someone take your place." I looked at him, my eyes filled with mockery. "Marquis, we've been married for years, yet spent little time together. Surely your days with Yu Niang in Jiangnan were far more joyful, otherwise you wouldn't have gotten her with child. You always wanted to marry her. But fate played its cruel joke. She was betrothed to your elder brother, forcing you lovebirds apart. Now that nothing stands between you, why insist on chasing down this obstacle? Why not grant me my freedom?" Jiu Qian grabbed my arm in explanation. "Wn Niang, that child was an accident. Yu Niang was distressed and drunk. She clung to me and I couldn't extricate myself. But the child wasn't born after all. The heir to my Marquis Wuan household can only come from you." I pried open his hand, enunciating each word clearly. "Had you shown me even a shred of affection back then, we wouldn't have come to this. I left because I was utterly disappointed in you. In that life or death moment, I realized I was never your first choice. You didn't even turn your head, never considered I might be in mortal danger, never once looked back at me. If not for my sheer luck, Shenwana would have died during last year's Lantern Festival." Jiu Qian, "You were the one who gave up on me. From that night onward, I ceased to be your wife." I took out the divorce letter I had long prepared but kept with me all this time and handed it to him. "Marquis, if you still harbor any remorse, sign it." Jiu Qian's eyes reddened as he lowered his head. "I always believed it was fate that I couldn't marry Yu Niang. With my elder brother passing early, she was left alone and helpless. My heart ached for her having no one to rely on. And thinking of our childhood bond, I wanted to take care of her. Taking care of her since childhood became a habit. In everything, I always prioritized her feelings first, and in doing so, I wronged you. Now I understand, Wn Niang, that I do care about you. Yu Niang poses no threat to you. She is merely a concubine, and having taken the sterility potion, she can bear no children. She cannot leave the estate, just a concubine confined to the rear courtyard. As long as you're willing to return to the estate, Wn Niang, our child will be the heir to the Marquis of Wuan's household." I interrupted him. "My lord, there's no possibility between us anymore. These matters are all in the past. No need to bring them up again. I won't return to the capital with you. Sign this divorce agreement, and we'll have nothing to do with each other from now on." He looked at me. "What if I refuse to divorce?" I stared at him and sneered. "Do you know that the day after you brought Lin Ruya back from Jiangnan, I already knew about your affair with her? You even promised her you wouldn't share a bed with me and would find a way to marry her. That was when I realized you were no longer my husband. From that day on, I grew utterly weary of you and resolved to leave you. My lord, why not part ways amicably, each finding their own happiness? Here, I need not wait daily for my husband's return, nor fret over his affections for another. I live quite well, far better than I ever did as the Marquis's wife. Henceforth, my lord, do not come again. Should you appear, I shall depart this place for another where you cannot find me." Jiu Qian stayed in the small town for half a month, coming to the shop every day to sit and eat a bowl of wontons. He just sat at the table, watching me greet customers, watching me skillfully cook wontons, watching me chat with familiar patrons. My face glowing with happiness. Finally, Yuna couldn't hold back anymore and swept the broom around his feet. "Marquis." Back in the Marquis's residence, the young lady suffered endless hardships. Every day, you were only preoccupied with another woman. Did you ever consider how she coped? How the household gossiped behind her back? How Lin Ruya tormented her? And now, why are you pestering her again? Didn't you want to be with that Lin Ruya? Now that the young lady has granted your wish, why put on this hypocritical act of reluctance? If you regret it now, what were you doing earlier? The young lady is very happy now, Marquis. Don't drag her back into the pit of fire that is your household. It's disgusting enough as it is. When you carried Lin Ruya away and abandoned the young lady in that chaotic alley, did it ever cross your mind she might lose her life? Marquis, there are no second chances in this world. Do you want to gamble with the reputation of the Wuan Marquis estate, that Lin Ruya is now in your rear courtyard, unknown to anyone? Isn't she, if word gets out that you married your own sister-in-law, what do you think will happen? Ji Qian turned ashen at Yunus' words. The next day, he came to me with a signed divorce agreement and a box of silver notes. You're alone now. Keep these for your protection. You can send someone to collect your belongings from the Marquis's residence at any time. Take care of yourself in the future. If there's anything I can help with, feel free to send a letter to the Marquis of Wuan's residence. I accepted the divorce agreement and the banknotes. After all, one can never have too much money, and as a vulnerable woman, having more funds for protection is always a good thing. With the help of the nanny, the wonton shop's business flourished. I even hired a few helpers, so I only needed to check in occasionally. In my free time, I would embroider, travel, and enjoy the mountains and waters, truly living the life I had always dreamed of. I heard news of Ji Qian again 4 years after our divorce. Tragedy. The dowager succumbed to grief and followed the Marquis in death. The southern Chu border was under attack, and he volunteered to lead the troops into battle. In the final battle, he held his ground at the city gates, protecting tens of thousands of civilians within, but was struck by the last arrow of the enemy archers and died on the city wall. The Marquis of Wuan had no heirs, and the old lady had passed away 2 years prior, leaving only Lin Ruyue in the rear courtyard. However, before setting off to war, the Marquis of Wuan left a will, donating all the family's wealth to charity, ensuring the homeless would have a place to rely on. The will also stipulated that after his death, the concubines of the Wuan Marquis's household were to enter the family temple, abstain from meat, and chant Buddhist scriptures to atone for their sins and pray for blessings. When Lin Ruyue received the news of the Wuan Marquis's death in battle, she was completely stunned. Upon learning of the arrangements Ji Qian had made for her, she wept bitterly in the rear courtyard. Had she still been the principal wife of the Wuan Marquis's household, she could have rightfully remained in the Marquis's estate, but now, she was merely a nameless concubine. The deputy general who brought back the Wuan Marquis's remains said, in his final moments, the Marquis kept repeating one phrase, "Wn Niang, if there is a next life. May we be husband and wife again." The deputy general did not know which lady's boudoir name was Wanyang, thinking to himself that the Marquis had no principal wife, and surmising it might be the concubine in the rear courtyard. Lin Ruyue, upon hearing these words, laughed heartily to the sky within the mansion. Ji Qian, who would have thought the person you remembered in the end would be Shen Wanyang. Haha. After speaking, she wept bitterly in sorrow. That night, she donned the wedding dress she wore when she first entered the mansion and hanged herself in the Qingfeng courtyard, her fragrant life extinguished. When I heard Ji Qian's final words, I merely smiled faintly, thinking to myself, Ji Qian, if there is a next life, you and I shall never meet again. The end.